So if you've ever been on the internet, chances are that you've heard Kevin MacLeod's music. The chances probably being 100%, especially if you watch Minecraft videos. He wrote the internet soundtrack. If you've ever been on TikTok, his songs have this many freaking uses. But why do you care? Well, I am glad you did not ask. Kevin, during the time the internet was being born, just so happened to make tons of music, and had he not released that music to the world for free, in his words, it would be a giant waste of his time. But his kindness to the internet certainly helped many creators, such as myself, make better videos. Now, he didn't know things were going to turn out the way that they did, but he was asked to make some movie soundtracks and got rejected a lot. So that also pushed him to give it to the world for free. I seriously couldn't tell you about any of the stuff that happened in those videos, but I can tell you that those songs made those videos so much more enjoyable to watch, which had to contribute to the success. Was Kevin's music the reason that these YouTubers succeeded? Well, maybe. Is music necessary is totally objective, because you can't just claim Kevin's the reason that those videos succeeded, but I can't help but feel like you watch a Minecraft video and somebody is sneaking up on somebody and it's just silent. It's not as entertaining as it is with this song. What you see and what you hear combined matters a lot. What you cannot convey with visuals, you can compensate with sound or soundtrack or sound design. No Country for Old Men is one of the greatest movies ever. Super highly acclaimed. I've watched it a bunch. I just watched it the other night. The thing that stood out to me the most in that entire movie, other than the lack of soundtrack, was when he set the rapper on the counter and they intentionally held the shot and let the rapper unfold and the sound crinkle out. That was scarier than any jump scare with loud music. The Blair Witch Project was a movie I watched for the first time about 4 years ago, and the very first time I watched it, I was terrified. It took me a really long time to figure out why, but I think it's the lack of music. There's something about hearing a man chew peanuts in a very tense scene that's way scarier than music. There's something about hearing all these people rustle around in their clothes and breathe before every word that they speak and every crackle on the ground without it being drowned out by music that makes it way more relatable and way more terrifying. The very last scene of the Blair Witch Project, horrifying. There really isn't any music in it. You don't need loud, crazy synth music to make a movie scary. Another example of why you don't need music to have a great movie, The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock, released in 1963, opted to have no soundtrack. I personally haven't sat down and watched the whole movie, but if you go watch it, some scenes on YouTube, I think you'll understand why this one didn't need a soundtrack. The Birds is also currently sitting at a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's pretty hard to do for a movie that old with no soundtrack, in black and white. On the other side of things, you have games like Mario, you have movies like Grease or Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, and Halloween 1978. That movie, John Carpenter's soundtrack totally made that movie. I understand the shots, the lighting, the atmosphere, how he totally wanted the visuals to be the best that they could be. But even if you ask somebody who's never watched that movie what that song is, they can tell you what it is. Same with any shot in the movie, but the sound in that movie is just as iconic as everything else. Grease wouldn't and couldn't be what it is without music, obviously. Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was just 10 times better with that soundtrack from Danny Elfman. It just hypes you up so much. Same thing with Endgame. And then there's movies like Psycho, which just set a whole new bar for what music can be used to do in movies. And how boring would that be to load into Super Mario for the first time and it just be quiet? That's not fun. But what does this all mean, and what is the takeaway from this? Music is necessary, but only sometimes. The lack of sound sometimes can make sound way better. If you take AC/DC for example, they pause a lot in their songs and they rest and they let the drums ride. The time from when he played the last chord to when he's going to play the next chord makes that next chord more impactful. The best songs obviously aren't judged on what has the most constant sound and no pauses, the most music. Why are we talking about any of this at all? Because music is power. The power that music has is absolutely massive, and people don't realize it. If you told somebody that had literally no concept of music that you could get millions of people into the same place, standing inches away from each other, all moving in the exact same way, sometimes all saying the same things in sync, with just tiny little invisible waves in the air that you can't even see, they would think you are a alien, a mind controller, a witch or something. It just sounds so crazy. And people pay money to do that on top of that. But if you look at people like Metallica, and especially like Taylor Swift or any of these other people, it happens and it's real. The effectiveness of No Country for Old Men and the Blair Witch Project wouldn't exist if music didn't exist as well. The eerie silence would just be normal if music wasn't normal. Music is totally needed, but it's totally powerful, so, be careful.